Hello Transmanians, and welcome to another exciting transit challenge. In this video, I took on a unique journey across Toronto's Line 2 Bloor-Danforth, not by train, but entirely on foot. That's right, I walked the full length of the line from Kennedy Station to Kipling Station, following Danforth Avenue and Bloor Street for most of the route. This isn't my first transit walking adventure. Back in 2022, I filmed a fun April Fool's Day video walking from Don Mills Station to Sheppard-Yonge Station. The following year, I reversed the direction for a fresh twist. I even walked the entire Line 3 Scarborough RT just 2 months before it was permanently closed. My goal was to walk every line in the TTC network, and while I had planned to tackle Line 5 and Line 6 next as of spring 2025, those lines have yet to open, so I skipped ahead and took on Line 2 instead. The Bloor-Danforth Line spans 26.2 kilometers and includes 31 stations. On this walk, I visited every single one and collected all 31 paper transfers as proof of my journey. I knew this would be a challenging trek, requiring endurance and determination. Curious about how long the walk took, how many kilometers I covered, and how many steps I racked up? Watch the video to find out. This walk officially marks the longest journey I've ever completed on foot. I began on the morning of Easter Sunday, arriving at Kennedy Station via the 300 Bloor-Danforth night bus, as Sunday's subway service doesn't begin until 8 a.m. The bus ride felt pretty long, but I eventually reached Kennedy around 8:30 a.m. Kennedy Station serves as the eastern terminus of Line 2 Bloor-Danforth, the former southern terminus of the now defunct Line 3 Scarborough RT, and the future and controversial terminus of Line 5, which doesn't deserve to be named. Originally opened in 1980, during the eastward extension of Line 2 from Warden Station, Kennedy is located just east of the Kennedy Road and Eglinton Avenue intersection. It's also an important intermodal hub, with a direct connection to the adjacent Kennedy GO station on the Stouffville line. As of recent figures, Kennedy ranks as the 5th busiest TTC station, following Bloor-Yonge, St. George, Sheppard-Yonge, and Union, handling approximately 42,881 daily customer trips. Despite its significance as a major transit hub, Kennedy has become one of my least favorite stations on the line, largely due to the closure of Line 3 and the ongoing delays and disruptions associated with the construction of Line 5. The main entrance to Kennedy Station is located a considerable distance from the intersection of Kennedy Road and Eglinton Avenue, making access slightly inconvenient for pedestrians. The entrance signage has been noticeably altered, with black tape obscuring the number 5, a reference to the delayed Line 5 project. The presence of multiple bus terminals can be confusing for first-time visitors attempting to make a transfer, further complicating the station's layout. Overall, the station has a bleak, unfinished atmosphere. For me, it serves as a visual reminder of incomplete projects and a transit line that no longer exists. It's a station I tend to not like anymore, simply because of the sense of disruption it represents. I saw the entrance of the disgraced LRT line, an infrastructure project that, while visually impressive, ultimately came too late to make a meaningful impact. Its presence felt symbolic of missed opportunities and a lack of communication to the public. Nevertheless, I tapped my Presto card to begin the journey, my first fare payment. With a 2-hour transfer window now active, I was curious to see how many stations I could reach before it expired. I picked up my first paper transfer at 8:39 a.m., officially marking the start of this ambitious walk. From Kennedy, I set off toward Warden Station. To reach Warden, I followed a route, south along Kennedy Road to St. Clair Avenue East, then west toward the station. This segment of the walk was my least favorite, characterized by long distances and turns required to navigate between stations. I found myself eagerly anticipating the stretch along Danforth Avenue, beginning at Victoria Park Avenue, where the route would become more straightforward and the station intervals shorter and more manageable. I had come well prepared. My devices were fully charged to document the journey, and I had packed a few essentials, including water and a homemade cheese sandwich, 4 slices to keep me going. I started thinking about when I'd take breaks and estimated my arrival at Kipling Station would fall somewhere between 4 and 6 p.m. Of course, that would depend on how many breaks I took and how much stamina I could maintain. While I was confident I could complete the walk, I couldn't shake the looming sense of just how far I still had to go, especially now that the journey had truly begun. After approximately 35 minutes of walking, I arrived at Warden Station. Situated at the southeast corner of St. Clair Avenue East and Warden Avenue, the station is uniquely aligned perpendicular to St. Clair, making it the only station on Line 2 with a north-south orientation. Warden Station first opened in 1968 in what was then the borough of Scarborough, serving as the eastern terminus of Line 2 Bloor-Danforth for 12 years until the extension to Kennedy Station was completed in 1980. At the time of filming, the original enclosed bus terminal had been demolished to facilitate long overdue accessibility upgrades. This reconstruction project began in 2022 and has been particularly challenging due to the station's complex, multi-level design. In November 2023, the south parking lot was closed and repurposed as a construction staging area. A temporary open-air bus terminal was introduced on January 5, 2025, allowing for the decommissioning and eventual replacement of the former terminal. Elevator installation is anticipated to be completed by mid-2025, while the new permanent terminal is scheduled for completion by the end of 2027, pending no further delays. While filming the Warden Station transfer, I had a slightly awkward encounter. A TTC collector seemed understandably puzzled by my actions. I had entered through the Presto gates, picked up a transfer, and exited almost immediately. From an outside perspective, it probably looked suspicious, and I could tell it raised some questions. I left the station as quickly and respectfully as possible to avoid further confusion. For the next leg of my journey to Victoria Park Station, I opted for a more scenic and straightforward route. Rather than walking along the busy Warden Avenue, I chose to follow the Gus Harris Trail through Warden Woods Park. This path runs parallel to the subway tracks on the left and the Taylor Massey Creek on the right. The trail eventually led me to Pharmacy Avenue, where I continued through a cluster of residential apartment buildings before reaching Victoria Park Station. The walk through the park was a highlight of the morning, peaceful and serene under a clear blue Easter Sunday sky. The rhythmic crunch of gravel underfoot, the gentle flow of the creek, and the occasional rumble of a subway train in the distance created a calm and reflective atmosphere. Victoria Park Station is located at 777 Victoria Park Avenue, just 1 block north of Danforth Avenue. It opened in 1968 within the former borough of Scarborough. Notably, Victoria Park Avenue marks the western boundary of Scarborough, meaning that heading west from here, I would be entering East York. At the time of filming, Line 2 was experiencing multiple service disruptions. A scheduled morning closure was in effect between Broadview and St. George stations due to maintenance work on the Prince Edward Viaduct. As a result, both Sherburne and Bay stations were temporarily closed, with service expected to resume by 11 a.m. Fortunately, based on my pace, I anticipated reaching that segment of the line after service had been restored. In addition, there was an unexpected closure between Jane and Kipling stations due to signal issues. It's fair to say that Line 2 was not having its best day, with several disruptions affecting both ends of the line. Thankfully, shortly after I departed Victoria Park, regular service resumed between Jane and Kipling. The walk from Warden to Victoria Park was lengthy, though slightly shorter than the earlier stretch from Kennedy. The encouraging news was that Main Street Station was next, marking the beginning of my walk along Danforth Avenue. My route from Victoria Park involved heading south, then turning west onto Danforth Avenue toward Main Street. From this point forward, the journey would become much more straightforward. Stations were closer together, the walking route was more direct, and I could finally settle into a steady rhythm all the way to Kipling. Main Street Station is located on the east side of Main Street, just a short distance north of Danforth Avenue. It serves as the eastern terminus of the 506 Carlton streetcar and provides convenient access to GO Transit's Lakeshore East Line via Danforth GO Station, located approximately 300 meters to the south. The walk from Victoria Park to Main Street was relatively short, just 17 minutes in total. By this point in the journey, I had covered a distance of 6.01 kilometers and logged 7,606 steps. From here on out, I knew the walk would become noticeably smoother, with stations positioned closer together and a more direct route along Danforth Avenue ahead. Woodbine Station is located at the southeast corner of Woodbine Avenue and Strathmore Boulevard, just north of Danforth Avenue. It opened in 1966 as the original eastern terminus of the Bloor-Danforth Line. Although it served as a terminus for 2 years, this was always intended to be temporary. As a result, the station was constructed with side platforms rather than a central island platform, an unusual choice for a terminal, but one made in anticipation of future expansion. The walk from Main Street to Woodbine took just 14 minutes, continuing the smooth and efficient pace of this part of the journey. Upon crossing Woodbine Avenue, I officially left East York and entered the boundaries of Old Toronto, another small milestone in this long cross-city walk. One feature I appreciate about Coxwell Station is the convenient pedestrian passageway that connects directly from Danforth Avenue. The station itself is situated on Strathmore Boulevard, just east of Coxwell Avenue and 1 block north of Danforth. Coxwell was made fully accessible in late December 2017 with the installation of automatic sliding doors, accessible fare gates, and elevators, enhancing the experience for all riders. The walk from Woodbine to Coxwell took about 12 minutes, and with stations now noticeably closer together, I could feel real momentum building. From this point, I decided to pick up the pace, jogging slightly on the way to Greenwood Station, as my 2-hour transfer window was nearing its end. The plan was to reach Greenwood, then take a short 15-minute break for food and rest. By the time I arrived at Donlands, I expected to tap in again, effectively restarting my 2-hour transfer clock for the next segment of the journey. Greenwood Station is located at the southwest corner of Linsmore Crescent and Strathmore Boulevard, just north of Danforth Avenue. It sits 1 block east of Greenwood Avenue, the nearest major intersection and the source of the station's name. The jog from Coxwell to Greenwood took just 4 minutes, a testament to how closely spaced the stations are along this stretch. After picking up my transfer, I took a well-earned break, sitting down to enjoy part of my cheese sandwich. At that moment, I felt a genuine sense of accomplishment and satisfaction with the progress I had made so far on the journey. After a 15-minute break, I was back on my feet and continuing toward Donlands Station. As the morning progressed, the temperature began to rise, prompting me to take off my spring jacket and continue in just a sweater. I felt energized and optimistic, with plenty of strength left and a growing confidence that I could successfully complete my journey all the way to Kipling. Donlands Station is located in Toronto's vibrant Greektown neighborhood, at the southwest corner of Donlands Avenue and Strathmore Boulevard, just north of Danforth Avenue. When the station first opened, it had only a small shelter for the stairs and escalator. In the early 1980s, a larger building was added, moving fare collection to street level and bringing bus bays inside the fare paid zone. Major upgrades began in 2021, including a second exit at 17 to 19 Dewhurst Boulevard, new access tunnels, and elevators throughout the station. Completed in August 2024, the project greatly improved accessibility and safety. After tapping my card at Dawnlands, I made my second fare payment of the day. The clock had restarted, and I was once again curious to see how many stations I could reach before this new 2-hour transfer window expired. On the way to Pape Station, I encountered a minor detour due to ongoing construction related to the future Ontario line, which will make the station an interchange station. As a result, I had to divert my route to the south side of Danforth Avenue before crossing back over to reach the station. This highlighted a pattern I had started to notice. Most station entrances along this stretch are situated on the north side of Danforth and Bloor, which is why the majority of my walk had followed that side of the street. The station, located in the heart of Toronto's Greektown, sits at the northeast corner of Pape Avenue and Lipton Avenue, just north of Danforth. It occupies the former site of the Lipton streetcar loop. Opened in 1966, it was the first station chosen for upgrades under the TTC's modernization program. Renovations began in late 2009 and were completed in 2013, adding a second entrance, elevators, improved lighting and ventilation, and public art. After a brief closure to speed up work, elevators opened on October 31st, and the second exit followed on December 23rd. At the time of this walk, the station's bus terminal remained closed due to continued Ontario Line construction, adding to the complexity of navigating the area. Chester Station is located on Chester Avenue, just north of Danforth Avenue. The station serves several surrounding communities, including Greektown, Withrow Park, Riverdale, and Broadview North. Accessibility improvements began in 2018 with the construction of 2 elevators and a new second exit. The elevators became operational on September 2nd, 2020, and the second exit officially opened on April 23, 2021, enhancing both safety and accessibility for passengers. I arrived at Broadview Station just 19 minutes after the scheduled morning closure had ended. Perfect timing. The station entrance is located on Broadview Avenue, just north of Danforth Avenue. Broadview serves as the northeastern terminus for both the 504B, King, and 505 Dundas streetcar routes. It features 2 streetcar platforms and 5 bus bays, allowing for seamless transfers between various transit services. As I was preparing to leave the station, a TTC employee noticed the plastic bag I was carrying. filled with paper transfers. When I explained that I had walked all the way from Kennedy Station, collecting a transfer at every stop, she seemed genuinely impressed by the journey I was undertaking. After crossing Broadview Avenue, I officially transitioned from Danforth Avenue onto Bloor Street and began the next leg of my journey toward Castle Frank Station by way of the Prince Edward Viaduct. Commonly referred to as the Bloor Viaduct, this historic truss-arch bridge, which opened in 1918, serves as a critical connection between Bloor Street East and Danforth Avenue. The viaduct is composed of three main sections: the Rosedale Valley Bridge, the Sherborne Embankment, and the central span across the Don Valley. This span crosses over Bayview Avenue, the Don River, and the Don Valley Parkway. The structure accommodates 5 lanes of vehicular traffic and 2 dedicated bike lanes on the upper deck, while the lower level houses the subway tracks used by Line 2, linking Broadview, Castle Frank, and Sherborne stations. Castle Frank Station is situated at the northwest corner of Bloor Street East and Castle Frank Road. Unlike many other stations on Line 2, it is not adjacent to major commercial, industrial, or entertainment destinations. Instead, it primarily serves nearby residential communities, including South Rosedale within walking distance, as well as St. Jamestown and Cabbagetown, via the 65 Parliament and 94 Wellesley bus routes. In late 2021, construction began on a project to make the station fully accessible with the installation of 2 elevators connecting the street-level concourse to both the eastbound and westbound platforms. This accessibility upgrade was completed in October 2024. Just west of Castle Frank, the subway crosses the Rosedale Ravine via a covered concrete bridge before continuing through a tunnel toward Sherborne Station. At this point in the journey, I crossed to the south side of Bloor Street, as the entrance to Sherborne Station is located on that side of the road. The walk was relatively straightforward, though there were a few minor sidewalk restrictions that made navigation slightly confusing. Sherborne Station primarily serves the St. Jamestown neighborhood, as well as the southern portion of Rosedale. In August 2019, the station began renovations to improve accessibility, and by December 2021, it was officially designated as an accessible station, equipped with elevators and other accessibility upgrades to better serve the surrounding community. Upon exiting Sherborne Station, I had officially entered Toronto's downtown core, a milestone moment in the journey. It was a remarkable feeling to realize that I had walked all the way from the suburban edge of Scarborough to the heart of the city. However, this was also the point where fatigue began to set in. My feet were starting to feel the strain of the long trek, but I remained determined to push forward. My next stop was Bloor-Yonge Station, where I planned to take a brief bathroom break. As one of the few stations in the TTC network equipped with public washroom facilities, Bloor-Yonge offered a convenient and much-needed pause in the journey. I entered the underground concourse that provides access to Bloor-Yonge Station, located beneath the busy intersection of Yonge Street and Bloor Street. As the busiest station in the TTC network, Bloor-Yonge handles over 200,000 passengers on an average weekday. The station originally opened in 1954 and was designed by architect Charles B. Dolphin. It became an interchange station in 1966 with the opening of Line 2, solidifying its role as a critical hub in Toronto's subway system. Bloor-Yonge Station is currently set to undergo a major retrofit and expansion to accommodate growing ridership demands. The project includes the construction of a new Line 2 platform, the expansion of both Line 1 platforms, improvements to the concourse level, new entrances and exits, and upgraded accessibility features throughout the station. I had estimated I would reach Bloor-Yonge around noon, but I arrived slightly ahead of schedule at 11:53 a.m. Once inside, I took a brief 5-minute break to use the station's washroom, one of the few publicly accessible facilities in the TTC system. Despite some fatigue in my feet, I still felt strong and motivated. At this point, I was officially halfway through my journey. My journey continued through the underground concourse, where I took the escalator to another level. This area appeared abandoned, with all the shops closed. Understandable, as the video was filmed on Easter Sunday. On a typical weekday, I imagined that a few stores might be open, but it was evident that the area was struggling. The infrastructure looked outdated, and the entire atmosphere felt somewhat eerie. I couldn't help but remain cautious, glancing around as I walked, just in case there were any suspicious individuals nearby. Eventually, I arrived at Bay Station, located in the heart of the Yorkville district, just north of Bloor Street West and on the west side of Bay Street. Bay Station is also home to the TTC's Lost and Found office, where items left behind on buses and trains are stored until they are reclaimed or sold at auction. Beneath Bay Station is the abandoned Lower Bay platform, briefly used in 1966 during a short-lived TTC interlining experiment. Closed due to delays and confusion, it now serves for training, transfers, and filming, with appearances in movies, music videos, and events. I exited through the Bel-Air Street exit and continued my walk along Bloor Street towards St. George Station. Passing Queen's Park, I encountered the Royal Ontario Museum, one of North America's largest museums and the largest in Canada. The striking Michael Lee Chin crystal, opened in 2007, stood out as a controversial modern addition to the museum. Its design often feels like a stark juxtaposition to the older, historical buildings, as if the modern structure is encroaching upon its surroundings, a perspective that has sparked debate. St. George Station, located north of Bloor Street West, between St. George Street and Bedford Road, is the second busiest station in the system after Bloor-Yonge, with approximately 209,994 passengers daily. The station opened on February 28, 1963 for the Yonge University Line and was later joined by the Bloor-Danforth Line on February 26, 1966. After passing through the Line 1 platform at St. George Station, I exited onto St. George Street and continued my walk toward the next stop, Spadina Station. Located on Spadina Road, just north of Bloor Street West, it is one of only 3 TTC stations open overnight, alongside Queens Quay and Union stations. The station is unique for having 2 separate platform areas, one for each subway line, about 150 meters apart, but on the same level. Originally planned as separate stations, the Line 1 opened in 1978, and Line 2 opened in 1966 platforms were later linked by a pedestrian tunnel. An underground loop for the 510 Spadina streetcar was added in 1997. The station sits in the annex near the University of Toronto's main campus. Bathurst Station is located on Bathurst Street, just north of Bloor Street West. It serves as a key transfer point for both buses and streetcars, including the 511 Bathurst route, which connects passengers to Exhibition Place. The station also serves the surrounding Annex and Koreatown neighborhoods. After collecting my transfer, I experienced a slightly awkward moment when a TTC employee noticed me filming the paper transfer. He inquired whether I was using a professional camera and mentioned that if I planned to post the footage on YouTube, I would need to notify the TTC as filming wasn't permitted. To clarify, TTC policy allows casual, non-commercial filming by individuals, something that has become increasingly common in today's world, where the majority of people carry smartphones capable of high-quality video recording. For this project, I used a DJI Pocket 3, a compact gimbal camera known for its portability and image stability. While it produces professional-looking results, it is not classified as professional equipment in the traditional sense. This issue isn't limited to the TTC. It also extends to other public spaces. For example, back in 2021, while preparing to film a video aboard the Toronto Island Ferry, I was stopped by a staff member who claimed that filming wasn't permitted. Moments later, I observed several passengers casually recording the ride on their smartphones without issue. Experiences like this highlight a disconnect between outdated enforcement practices and the reality of modern technology. With so many people now carrying devices capable of recording high-quality video, it's important for public-facing staff to better understand and adapt to today's norms around casual, non-commercial filming. In my experience, most transit enthusiasts and visitors film to document their journeys or share their appreciation for transit systems, not for commercial purposes. Unfortunately, outdated perceptions sometimes lead to unnecessary confrontations, which can reflect poorly on a city's image, especially when it involves tourists simply trying to capture memories. I've been filming transit experiences for 14 years, and in that time, the landscape has changed significantly with the rise of live streaming and global content sharing. The TTC, like many systems around the world, is regularly featured across countless channels. Creating content like this isn't just common, it's part of how transit systems are appreciated and understood by a wider audience. Apologies for the serious tone, but I believe it's important to shed light on this issue. Casual filming on transit is not only allowed, it's a part of capturing memories and transit enthusiasm. After departing Bathurst Station, I arrived at Christie Station, located on the east side of Christie Street, just north of Bloor Street West. Christie Street itself is named after Christie McDougall, the wife of landowner Peter McDougall, with historical records indicating the name was in use as early as 1835. The station is situated near notable landmarks, such as Koreatown and Christie Pitts Park. In 1976, a late evening train fire at the station destroyed 4 cars and heavily damaged the platform and walls, though no one was injured. As of late 2021, work began to make Christie Station's main entrance wheelchair accessible by adding 2 elevators, with completion expected by late 2025 at the earliest. By this point in my walk, my 2-hour transfer window was nearing its expiration. I picked up the pace with a brisk walk toward Ossington Station, where I planned to tap my Presto card and take a well-deserved 20-minute break to enjoy the rest of my sandwich. Ossington Station is located on Ossington Avenue, just north of Bloor Street West. By the time I arrived, my legs were starting to feel the effects of the long walk, and my 2-hour transfer window was about to expire, making it the perfect moment for a well-earned break. Coincidentally, subway service was once again suspended between Jane and Kipling due to signal issues. On this particular Easter Sunday, Line 2 was by far the most disrupted of all the lines. Fortunately, the suspension was resolved by the time my break ended, allowing me to continue the journey without further interruption. After my break, I continued on to Dufferin Station, located on Dufferin Street, just north of Bloor Street West. When the station originally opened, its west entrance featured a distinctive glass and aluminum design with red accents, while the east entrance was integrated into the Bloor-Dufferin Medical Center. Inside, the station featured green wall tiles with black trim and terrazzo flooring. In 1974, the New Horizons Tower was built next to the west entrance. A 2010-2014 renovation added elevators, new tiles, entrances, signage, and the mosaic Something Happens Here by Eduardo Aquino and Karen Shansky, reflecting the local community. At this point, I paid my fare for the 3rd time, starting another 2-hour transfer window. I was hopeful that if I kept up the pace, I could reach Kipling Station before the transfer expired. However, despite the earlier rest at Ossington, the fatigue was setting in. My feet were aching, and each step became more challenging. Still, I pushed forward. As I exited Dufferin, I noticed a technical issue at the Russet Avenue entrance. The automatic sliding doors located just past the Presto gates were opening independently, potentially allowing fare evaders to enter without tapping. It was a surprising oversight. Upon arriving at Lansdowne Station, I entered through the Emerson Avenue entrance, but had to make my way to the main entrance on Lansdowne Avenue to collect a transfer. The station is situated in the Dovercourt-Wallace, Emerson Junction neighborhood, near the vibrant Bloordale Village Strip. Accessibility upgrades began in June 2019, with the installation of 3 elevators to improve access throughout the station. One elevator was designed to connect the street level to the concourse, while the other 2 provided access from the concourse to the eastbound and westbound platforms. The project was completed on schedule in December 2022, officially making Lansdowne Station fully accessible. I crossed a bridge belonging to GO Transit's Barrie Line. According to a proposal under the GO expansion program, a new station, tentatively named Bloor-Lansdowne, is planned approximately 200 meters west of this location. This station aims to provide seamless connections between GO Transit services and the TTC. I passed by Bloor GO Station, which serves the Kitchener Line to Kitchener and the Union Pearson Express to Toronto Pearson International Airport. Within walking distance is Dundas West Station, located just north of Bloor Street West at the intersection of Dundas Street and Edna Avenue. This station serves as the northwestern terminus for the 504A, King, and 505 Dundas streetcar routes, featuring 2 streetcar platforms and 5 bus bays to facilitate transfers between connecting routes. Metrolinx is currently constructing a pedestrian tunnel to connect Dundas West Station with Bloor GO Station, reducing the transfer distance from 500 meters to 270 meters. The project includes the development of a new concourse within the Crossways building, elevator access, stairwells, and enhanced safety systems. Construction began in May 2024, with completion anticipated in 2027 at the earliest. I entered Keele Station through the parking lot entrance at Indian Grove, though I needed to retrieve a transfer from the main entrance on Keele Street. The station opened in 1966 and served as the western terminus of Line 2 until its extension to Islington in 1968. Construction to make the station fully accessible began in August 2019, with 2 elevators installed as part of the project. This work was completed in July 2021, making Keele the TTC's 53rd accessible station. The station is located near the Junction neighborhood to the north and sits at the northeast corner of High Park. As I approached High Park Station, I began to notice the subtle inclines in the terrain, which underscored my growing fatigue and the discomfort in my feet. Recognizing the need for another break, before reaching Kipling Station, I decided to purchase a new fare. This would allow me to complete the walking portion of my journey and also return home without incurring an additional fare. High Park Station is situated just north of Bloor Street West, spanning from Quebec Avenue to High Park Avenue. Opened in 1968 as part of the western extension of the Bloor-Danforth subway line, the station serves the surrounding residential areas and provides access to High Park, one of Toronto's largest and most beloved green spaces. In April 2025, the TTC completed the installation of new elevators connecting the Quebec Avenue entrance to the station platforms, enhancing accessibility for all passengers. Exiting High Park Station, I felt a slight sense of relief as I encountered a downhill stretch along Bloor Street. However, that relief was short-lived, as it was soon followed by another uphill climb toward the next station. Runnymede Station is located just north of Bloor Street West, spanning the block from Runnymede Road to Kennedy Avenue. It features bus platforms at street level, with entrances at both ends. Situated in the Bloor West Village neighborhood, the station serves as a key transit hub in the area. As I walked, I couldn't help but feel the toll on my feet, especially whenever I encountered an escalator going down but had to take the stairs instead. The discomfort reminded me just how tired I was, and I started considering whether I should take a break at Jane Station. I decided I would make up my mind once I arrived there. Jane Station, located just north of Bloor Street West between Jane Street and Armadale Avenue, provides access to the local communities of Bloor West Village, Swansea, Runnymede, Old Mill, and Baby Point. Upon reaching Jane, I opted to continue onward toward Old Mill Station, thinking I might take my final break there. As I made my way, I was once again relieved to find some downhill stretches, though my feet were still aching. At Old Mill, I paused for a while to watch the trains cross the Humber River, traveling between Old Mill Station and the surrounding area. After crossing the bridge, I would officially enter Etobicoke, the final borough in Toronto. Old Mill Station is located at 2672 Bloor Street West, at the intersection of Old Mill Terrace and Humber Boulevard, within the Kingsway residential neighborhood. In 2000, a late-night fire on a waste train damaged the station, likely sparked by a discarded cigarette. The TTC responded by shifting to truck-based waste collection outside stations. Looking ahead, Old Mill Station will undergo accessibility upgrades, including the installation of 2 elevators to the side platforms, tactile tiles, improved signage, and CCTV cameras. Construction is expected to begin soon, with the project slated for completion by 2028 at the earliest. Once completed, Old Mill will become the last subway station in Toronto to be made fully accessible. As I continued my journey, the stations began to feel farther apart, making it take longer to reach each one. This could have been due to my slowing pace, as fatigue was starting to set in. I decided to push on to Royal York Station, with the possibility of continuing to Islington Station before taking my final break. Exiting the station, I faced a challenging hill along Bloor Street West, which made me reconsider stopping at Royal York instead. I entered the station via Grenview Boulevard and proceeded through the station platform to the main Royal York Road entrance for a transfer. Originally, the plan for the Bloor-Danforth extension included different stations, Montgomery and Prince Edward, rather than Islington and Royal York. This change was likely due to the proximity of these streets to the Kingsway shopping district. Ultimately, the decision was made to include only one station in the Kingsway area at Royal York. At Royal York, I took my final break for about 25 minutes, resting on a bench in the bus terminal before continuing my journey. After my break, I continued on toward the final two stations, Islington and Kipling. Despite the rest, my feet were still aching, but the thought of being nearly finished kept me motivated to push through. The finish line was in sight. Islington Station is located on the north side of Bloor Street West, at the west end of Islington Avenue. Renovation plans for the station began in the late 2000s, but were delayed past 2014. My Way buses moved to Kipling in 2021, clearing the way for a new terminal, entrance, elevators, and residential redevelopment. Elevator work began in 2023, with completion expected by 2026 at the earliest. Islington is another least favorite station of mine due to the eyesore but understandably accessibility construction. I made my final presto payment as I neared the end of this ambitious walking journey, pushing through the home stretch with determination. The walk to Islington Station took approximately 15 minutes, and I estimated that the walk to Kipling would take another 15 minutes. I crossed Bloor Street to the south side, as the station entrance is located there. Along the way, I passed under two bridges, one for GO Transit's Milton Line and the other for Line 2 Bloor-Danforth, which emerges from a portal at Islington Station. As I made my way toward Kipling, I reflected on the journey, filled with both immediate thoughts and future aspirations. I felt a deep sense of pride, accomplishing something I had never imagined before. I had walked across Toronto, visiting each station along Line 2. At the time of recording this video, it was the longest walk I had ever undertaken. However, my exhaustion and aching feet left me wondering how I would manage a similar walk along Line 1 Yonge University, given its greater length and number of stations. The line stretches 38.4 kilometers compared to the 26.2 kilometers of Line 2, and I wondered whether it might need to be split into two parts, walking halfway south to Union Station and then continuing north. Looking back, I thought about ways I could have improved the experience, perhaps by taking more breaks and pacing myself better. I realized I had pushed myself too hard, focused on completing the journey as quickly as possible because I had other commitments later in the day. If I had taken more frequent breaks, perhaps I would have felt less fatigued. Nevertheless, I succeeded. I had completed the journey from east to west. What began with a few doubts ended as a significant accomplishment on the west side. And there it was, Kipling Station, the terminus of the line. This station is served by both subway trains and buses operated by the Toronto Transit Commission, and it is conveniently located adjacent to Kipling GO Station on the Milton line of GO Transit, as well as the Kipling Bus Terminal, where passengers can transfer to My Way and GO Transit bus services. Kipling Station opened on November 21, 1980 as part of the extension to the west, reaching this station, and to the east, extending to Kennedy Station. It is situated in the Islington City Centre West neighborhood at the intersection of St. Albans Road and Auckland Road, just west of the Kipling Avenue overpass, from which the station derives its name. The 900 Airport Express bus route also connects Kipling to Toronto Pearson International Airport. Across the bridge lies the terminal, where I would make my final transfer. It was done. From 8:39 a.m. to 4:04 p.m., I walked from Kennedy to Kipling, completing a 5-hour and 50-minute workout, with the entire journey taking 7.5 hours from east to west. My walk along the Bloor-Danforth Line was a far greater challenge compared to my previous walks on Line 4 Sheppard or Line 3 Scarborough RT, where the distances were much shorter. Now that the journey had concluded, I planned to take the TTC home and enjoy the rest of my sunny Easter, while allowing my legs to rest and recover, something that would take a few days for them to feel less stiff. It was a well-earned accomplishment.